Hello and welcome to today's live. Today we're going to be talking about is PCOS genetic? So we're going to see a few different studies and we're going to find the answer together. So stay tuned. All right, guys. So today is going to be a little bit different live because it's just one question that we have to answer. And the question will be, is PCOS genetic? For all of you who are watching this, I just want to put one disclaimer. I am not a medical professional. So if you need any medical professional advice, please find them. I am just a girl who reads the comments on the internet. Now, if you're tuning in, make sure that you say hi, tell me where you're watching from. I would love to know who is watching me, etc. Today, guys, it's a miracle that I managed to go live. I thought I'm going to have to skip it for this week, but we are here. So let's dive in, shall we? And today we're going to be sharing a lot of screens. I will be sharing with you I will be sharing with you quite a lot of articles today. Let me just see if you can see well. Let me just change that. Right, so I'm going to be sharing quite a lot of articles with you. Now, I found quite a few of them about PCOS being genetic, and then I'm going to show you some other take on it that I believe that I have my own take on it. So first of all, we are on NHS website. If you don't know what NHS is the public health healthcare system in England, in Great Britain, in UK, whichever it is. And on their website, they're actually saying that PCOS sometimes run in families. So if any relatives such as your mother, sister, and aunt have PCOS, the risk of you developing it is all often increased. This suggests that there might be a genetic link to PCOS, although specific genes associated with the condition have not yet been identified. And that seems to be a very common thread, which we will see in the further articles. However, so far, what do we know? So far, we know maybe, it might be linked. Now, let's go to another article, shall we? Let me just skip this and share another article with you. There we go. Not that. There. I'm Irish all of a sudden. Right, so we have another scientific article that actually talks about genetic basis of polycystic ovarian syndrome and current perspectives on that. So here we have written about the generics. Let me just find that there's multiple etiological factors have been implicated in PCOS. So because the pathophysiology, sorry, my tongue is just twisting today, is involving multiple pathways and proteins, single genetic diagnostics that cannot be determined. Because as you know, there are quite a lot of things that is happening in PCOS. And if you have seen my previous videos as well, you know there are a few types of PCOS, so there might be a few different things that are happening in our body that are not going properly, right? So it is to determine whether PCOS is genetic or not, we would have to determine whether all of those stuff, which I'm going to talk about in a minute, are genetic as well. So here again, they're kind of leaning into the fact Here it is: the mechanisms by which variants in the genes confer risk to PCOS and the nature of a physical and genetic interaction between the genetic elements, blah, 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 can be determined. So there is no specific gene yet identified that would actually suggest to be the definite gene. Oh, Beth is here watching. Hello, Beth, how are you? And now we're going to put another one. Genetics of polycystic ovarian syndrome. Is this the one with the numbers? Sorry, let me just go through trying to find this one. Oh, it might have been in the previous one, guys. Right, or it's in this one. Anyway, sorry, when you're on camera, all of a sudden you cannot find anything. However, here we have the same thing written, that there is a role of genetic factors in PCOS is strongly supported. However, again, it hasn't been fully investigated until now. Now I have lost this part of the article, but take my word for it. Then in one of the articles, they were actually saying that the possibility of you having genetic PCOS is around something like 40%, from 24 to 40%. Let me see if I have that article somewhere. Of course, I lost it all of a sudden. Whatever. Anyway, it's around 25 to 40%. So you can ask yourself a question. If it is between 25 and 40%, and those links are, by the way, linked below, so you can find this information for yourself. If it's only 25 to 40%, is being told that it's quite prevalent that PCOS is genetic. However, 25 to 40% means that up to between 60 and 75% of PCOS cases are not genetic, which still would mean that majority of cases are not genetic. Julia is saying, hi, hello, Julia, how are you? So yeah, even if 25 to 40%, which sounds like a big number, could be genetic, majority of it, it's not. Now, I started thinking when I was reading those articles, like, what is it in PCOS that actually is the biggest problem? And we all know that with PCOS, around 70% of women with PCOS actually have insulin resistance. So is insulin resistance, for example, genetic? I started thinking about actually checking that, and I have found 2 articles on the subject. Let me show you. Genetics of insulin resistance and metabolic syndrome. And it seems actually that overall, as we all know, the prevalence of insulin resistance and the metabolic syndrome is increasing. So there's more and more people having insulin resistance and metabolic syndrome, particularly in developing countries and in younger populations, with the estimating of prevalence ranging from 20 to 40% in both populations. While there are strong lifestyle determinants for the development of both insulin resistance and the metabolic syndrome, it is increasingly clear that an individual's risk of developing insulin resistance and aspect of the metabolic syndrome is also determined by genetic factors. And I quite like this summary because, again, I will tell you my take on it in a minute. However, it seems like, the prevalence is growing and the lifestyle factors are also quite important, as well as genetic factors. So, again, both sides of the coin. And let me share the last one, and then we're gonna talk about what do I think on the subject. So here is another article which says that genetic and epidemiological studies strongly suggest that insulin resistance is, at least in a part, genetically determined. However, the involved genes and their effective variants are mostly unknown, right? So there's a lot of things that have to be, a lot of genes that could be influencing not only PCOS, but also insulin resistance. Let me just take a sip of water. So what is my take on it? Well, reading some studies, definitely you can see that genetic factors can be contributing to PCOS. However, it seems like in the majority of cases, there are lifestyle factors, because you can ask yourself, like, why there's such a big percentage of women, because it's 5 to 10%, when I'm quoting from the top of my head, 5 to 10% of women in the reproductive age have PCOS. So 5 to 10% is a really, really big number if you think about total world's population, especially that this number is just confirmed cases. And we know very well that being diagnosed with PCOS sometimes, especially in some countries, is not as easy as in the others. So definitely, if we see the big percentage of what is happening, knowing that insulin resistance is prevalent, whether with PCOS or without, that nowadays the societies, especially the Western societies, are obese and have problem with insulin resistance and diabetes, I would lean more towards the fact that that PCOS is more connected to our lifestyle, because again, even in case of genetic factors, they're estimating it's around 25 to 40% out of this 5 to 10%, right? So it is quite big. And if we know about the numbers of insulin resistance, as I said, in general in the world, you will find out and you will see that actually insulin resistance is prevalent everywhere. So insulin resistance can, of course, cause the whole cascade, as we were talking about plenty of times before, and that can cause our PCOS. Now, saying that, there are, of course, cases where we have PCOS without insulin resistance, for example, or we have lean PCOS and people who actually don't struggle with insulin and still have PCOS, right? And that is something that is happening. It's not as common because it's, 70% of women with PCOS do have insulin resistance. But if they don't, maybe the genetic factors there are a little bit stronger. So now talking about a little bit more anecdotal evidence, and for everybody who's tuning in now, we just went through few articles talking about the genetic, whether PCOS is genetic or not. But now I'm talking a little bit more anecdotal evidence. So being a member of few PCOS groups on Facebook, where a lot of people are sharing their personal experience, I have seen a lot of women saying that in the past they have struggled with getting pregnant, and now their teenage daughters, or sometimes even younger daughters, are actually diagnosed with PCOS. So it might be that in those cases the PCOS is genetic, and in the other cases it is just connected to lifestyle. Now, telling you my story, to be fair, I haven't been to the doctors for a while now, hashtag because you know what is happening in the world. I'm not going to use that word, but I haven't had my PCOS checked, and usually, when I'm going, I'm having ultrasonogram, and I'm being told how are my ovaries. I only had the normal ultrasonogram from outside. Now, if it goes to myself, I don't know. My mother, my sister, all women in my family, extremely fertile, and I mean, wanted to get pregnant, first time, boom, had a child. So that suggests to me that none of the members of my family have PCOS. However, in my family, we have diabetes, or being prone to diabetes, definitely running in my family. So the members of my family in the past had diabetes. Some of the members I suspect having insulin resistance. However, they haven't been diagnosed yet. Horrible hungers, fatigue, all these symptoms that for me would suggest insulin resistance are very, very prevalent in my family, as well as I had eating disorder and so on. So I think that in my case, it is genetic in a way that my body doesn't handle insulin very, very well, and so did my ancestors, and for that reason, it might just so happen that in my case, it was strong enough to actually influence me enough for me starting to have PCOS, right? We have a comment from Beth here, who actually says that, I think it is about how our genes interact with carbs, leading to insulin resistance and then PCOS in me. Just looking at how my mom reacting to keto, very good weight loss and increased energy. And that's exactly what I mean. That is exactly the same thing in my family. And yeah, women in older generations from me definitely have that problem, increased hunger, sugar cravings, fatigue, not being possible to lose weight, diabetes, pre-diabetes, type 2 diabetes, right? Because it was caused. But definitely this is a weak link in my family as well. So in my opinion, for sure, that can be cases where PCOS is almost like purely genetic. So if you don't have insulin resistance, but you still have PCOS and you know that it runs in your family, sure, it might be. However, if it doesn't run in your family, majority of them, of course, is going to be lifestyle factors or genes connected, because there's no gene connected to PCOS. You have to remember that PCOS is quite complex syndrome. It is combined insulin resistance, high androgen levels. The problem might be on many levels, because for people, for example, with no insulin resistance, they might still have high androgen levels and high androgen symptoms. However, they will not have insulin resistance. So maybe for them, genetic factor would be overproducing of specific androgens, either in their ovaries or either in their adrenals. There's so many places where PCOS can come to play, and this is the whole syndrome, right? It's not one single symptom or one single hormone that is out of whack. So it might be genetic in a different ways. You might be more prone to it. It might be genetic to a point, like everything genetic, that either your lifestyle is gonna promote it or not, right? So as usual, one thing is us having our genes, and the other thing is having gene expression. Yes. So one thing, for example, I might have a gene for lung cancer, but if I would be smoking, I'm more prone to get cancer. That's someone else who's smoking and doesn't have that gene, but I'm much less prone to get cancer if I don't smoke. So if I don't smoke, my gene expression will not ever express itself, because I don't irritate my lung cancer gene, right? So that is it for today, guys. I knew there is going to be one simple question and one simple answer. Quick live today. I hope that in upcoming weeks you will still come and stay tuned for the next ones. I will figure out the title on the next one as soon as I can. If you have any suggestions, please leave them in the comments down below of the videos that you would like to watch. Whether you would like me to make any, for example, PCOS friendly recipes, I could do that as well. So let me know. Make sure that you hit like, subscribe, leave me the comments, tell me where you're watching from, and I will see you next week. Bye. Oh, almost bye.